folks, happy 420 and happy Taurus season. I'm personally still feeling quite aggravated from that Mars-Saturn conjunction yesterday, so hopefully these vibes can bring a little bit more calm, a little bit more chill. But don't worry, there's still a fuck ton of planets in Aries, so we can continue to harness that sacred rage to get into some good trouble, as John Lewis called it. Now, this week is thankfully not quite as jam-packed astrologically as last week. We have a couple Mercury and Venus transits to take a peek at, but we have one massive piece of news in the stars this week, which is Uranus finally entering Gemini. So get ready for an era of major trickster energy. Oh wait, that's not something you can prepare for. All you can do with Uranus is to expect the unexpected. And we'll get into that, but let's start at the beginning of the week and take a look at today, Monday, April 20th. A couple Mercury transits here. In the morning, Mercury will be conjunct Saturn at 8 degrees of Aries. And then in the afternoon, Mercury will move on to a conjunction with Mars at 8.5 degrees of Aries. So we basically have a Mercury-Mars-Saturn clusterfuck in Aries. Great. Thinking first about Mercury conjunct Saturn, you may be feeling a certain restriction, compression, or heaviness of the mind today. This transit can feed hopelessness and despair, and of course there's a lot of shit going on these days you could feel that way about. But on the more constructive side, a Mercury-Saturn contact can help us to harness mental focus and self-discipline, to communicate with intention and integrity, to think seriously about the long term and the big picture, and to listen to our elders and our mentors. If you're learning something new these days, this transit can help you take that to the next level. And the Mercury-Mars conjunction can supply some energy for that hard work. This can have us thinking bravely and communicating directly, expressing ourselves with passion. But this transit can also be very mentally agitating. There's a chance you've kind of been in crisis mode all day today. And of course, there's a big potential here for arguments and verbal conflict, for impulsively saying things you wish you could take back. Ask me how I know. This Mars-Saturn combo is so weird because it's like we're hitting the gas pedal and the brakes at the same time. So sure, Saturn's boundaries might help prevent Mars from putting its foot all the way up in its mouth, but we're likely to feel a bit frustrated and stymied while that's happening. But all things shall pass, so let's check out Tuesday, April 21st, when the moon moves into homey, feelsy Cancer. And then I was gonna say that Wednesday the 22nd is a quiet day in the skies. That's not really true with everything else going on these days, but at least we'll have a moment to catch our breath with no exact transits on Wednesday. On Thursday, though, April 23rd, the moon will move along into expressive, enthusiastic Leo, and then we have a couple Venus transits on this day as well. First of all, Venus will be conjunct Uranus at the very, very, very end of Taurus. This is another transit that can really rattle your sense of balance and your emotional regulation if it's not already completely upended at this point. Sudden events or shocking news might come through about relationships, resources, issues of justice and equality. But although revolutionary planet Uranus tends to shake us up real good, its ultimate goal in doing so is alignment. Uranus wants us to be liberated, genuine, authentic, and true to ourselves. So this is a time to check in with our values and how we connect with others and relate to the world. If you've been wanting to make a change in your relationships, your creative projects, your finances, etc., this could be a good day to do that. Try something new, get a little kinky and weird, and see if any of those electric Uranian flashes of genius come through. Now, just a couple hours later, Venus will finally exit its home sign of Taurus and enter Gemini. That's the sign of dialogue and conversation, the twins chatting away at each other, right? So the focus here is shifting to communication in our relationships. The next few weeks of Venus in Gemini will be a time to talk, to write, to share about ourselves, and of course to listen to others as well. Maybe you're meeting new people or seeing new sides of people you already know, because Gemini is the sign of curiosity. So it's time to look at the people in our lives with fresh eyes, to get curious about our relationships with them and with ourselves, or to get curious about any other relational Venus topic. People change over time, as the mutable sign Gemini reminds us, so we don't want to assume that things are the same as they were even just a week ago, right? Gemini is a perpetual student, and remember that everything from relationships to money to art relates to a set of skills and information that you can learn and practice and get better at, especially with all the access to information that we have today. A downside here is that Gemini can be very scattered and unfocused, so we will need to practice discernment in terms of what merits our curiosity and who we want to focus on. Try not to flake on people too much, and remember to communicate as honestly as you can, because Gemini do be twisting the truth sometimes. Okay, on Friday the 24th, there's no news, but Saturday, April 25th is the big fucking day that I personally have been awaiting for years. This is the day that Uranus moves into Gemini for the next 6 or 7 year period. Stagnation begone. First, though, we have a bit of a tough transit to get through in the form of a Sun square to Pluto from 5.5 degrees of Taurus to 5.5 degrees of Aquarius. This will be a challenge to your ego, so just a heads up about that. Pluto might dredge up dark, difficult truths that you might rather not face about yourself. It might put pressure on the places where you're repressing, where you're not aligned with your revolutionary Aquarian values. You may find yourself obsessively projecting on others or reenacting past traumas. We'll probably face some hard questions about personal versus collective power and tyrannical power structures in our society. We may have to choose between enjoying the present moment and preparing for an uncertain future. The Sun is a symbol of life and Pluto is a symbol of death, right? So Pluto always asks us, what is of urgent life or death importance? What priorities are you going to look back on from your deathbed? Pluto invites us to see mortality as a counselor and to cherish precious life while we can. All right, let's finally talk about Uranus entering Gemini here on Friday evening. This is a huge topic that I'll be talking about more on social media and stuff, but I'll try to give you a concise rundown here. First, a little bit of context though. So Uranus has been in the sign of Taurus since like 2018, 2019. The planet of rebellion and revolution has been trying to galvanize the people. The Lord of earthquakes and lightning bolts has been shaking up the natural world. Uranus has been rocking our foundations, questioning our values, and has kind of brought capitalism and materialism to a destructive breaking point, along with other transits like Pluto and Aquarius, for example. It's been a weird mix with this airy alien planet in this very earthy, grounded sign. But that's about to change because Uranus will feel more at home in the air sign of Gemini. It's giving metaphorical tornado vibes, y'all. Okay. What's getting shaken up now and until 2032 or 33 is how we think and how we perceive the world, how we receive information and understand truth, how we communicate with each other. We might see major changes in the media, with news outlets, and in education, to give a few examples. And of course, with the evolution of the internet and social media, the rampant expansion of AI, increasing issues with misinformation and disinformation, this probably isn't too surprising to hear, right? In Gemini, Uranus also has the potential to really shake up our local communities and our platonic relationships with friends, neighbors, and siblings. And I'm hoping this will end up meaning that we do a lot of awesome community building in the coming years, and that we finally acknowledge the importance of platonic relationships as well as romantic ones. Although, considering where we're headed, that might be more out of necessity than anything. We'll see. But Uranus and Gemini will ask us to get really curious about who we actually authentically are right here, right now. We've all changed a lot in recent years, but we're not done transforming yet. We want to ask ourselves what we actually want in life, how we need to grow, and what we can learn from others if we stay open to change. Uranus and Gemini both have major trickster energy that will be amplified when these two symbols come together. Uranus is the great disruptor, right? The bringer of sudden transformation, the rebel against the status quo, the tester of boundaries. And that is a sacred role in society, and one that we desperately fucking need right now as we're trying to make these huge changes. Meanwhile, Gemini is a sign of duality, duplicity, contradiction, and ambiguity. It's liminal, it's queer, it has a witty joke or a sharp jab for just about anything. Gemini's always in motion, always in flux, staying flexible, never getting stuck. Look, I don't know how this world could be more fast-paced than it already fucking is, but we're about to find out, y'all. Let's go. So that's a tidbit about Uranus and Gemini. We're going to be with this transit for many years, as I said. But the last thing to know on Saturday is that the moon will move into analytical, service-oriented Virgo. And then let's check out Sunday, April 26th, when we actually have a couple pretty nice transits to wrap up the week for once. First of all, Venus will sextile Neptune from 3 degrees of Gemini to 3 degrees of Aries. And this stimulates compassion in our relationships, inspiration in our creative projects, and connection in our spiritual lives. A Venus sextile to Neptune encourages us to value interconnectedness and to dream of a future of beauty, peace, and love, my dudes. Then, finally, for this week, we have a Mercury square to Jupiter from 18 degrees of Aries to 18 degrees of Cancer. And this one can help us to feel mentally expansive, which I personally am looking forward to after my brain going through the ringer of tough Mercury transits lately. So under this one, we might be thinking more hopefully or abundantly. We might be communicating more generously or confidently. Just remember to listen at least as much as you talk. And we might finally get some good news for once, an opportunity to seize, or at least like just a good joke and a belly laugh to relieve a little bit of tension. The loving, caring, nurturing waters of Cancer that Jupiter is swimming through can help to balance out and soothe some of this hot, fiery rage of Aries that we've all been immersed in recently. All right, that's your astrological weather report for this week. I'm Alice Pope. Logan, back to you.